have a look at this order again. The last two items that you see here, they all have zero priority numbers, right? So what does that mean? That they're not important? Well, maybe there might be some items which are high impact and zero evidence. It is very possible that there's no customer who is talking about some of these items, but they really have high impact. Now, the kind of items that fall in this category are compliance, regulatory, legal requirements, where if you do not do these things, you might be, kind of stuck with a fine. You will have some revenue loss. You might even lose customers. You might even lose business. So they really have high impact. Some critical infrastructure upgrade or some re-architecturing or some refactoring that is needed in the code, which again, if not done, might take your entire infrastructure down and make your product non-usable. Some high key industry event happening, maybe some key company announcement that is coming up, some global event which is happening for which you need to build something. If you miss that window of opportunity, you are again going to take a hit. And then some strategic long bets, some innovation, things in machine learning, artificial intelligence, some experiments, some innovation that you need to keep on doing in order to figure out what to build next. So these are some high impact but really zero evidence items. You do not find your customers talking about them at all. But what they need is a forced priority bump, because these are important items. One of the examples is here. If you see, the impact was 5, but the evidence is 0. And this is a mandatory compliance and regulatory updates. If you do not build that, you will lose your customers and your revenue. So what you do is you force bump the priority. You just make the impact as the highest number possible, 99 in this case, that naturally bumps up the priority. And then when you look back at your backlog, it becomes one of the top priority items. Now, just bumping of the priority is not sufficient. Make sure that you communicate the force priority and the trade-offs. So if you have to communicate to the leadership that, hey, you know what, I need to build this feature, and why I need to build this feature is because if I don't do it in the next 3 months, we will be non-compliant to these regulatory legalities, and then we will lose some revenue. So that is why I need to build it. And by the way, if I'm pulling this back into the roadmap, these are the trade-offs. These are the items that I will not be able to build. So make sure that you are justifying those trade-offs before you kind of just take them up, and never force prioritize without justification. Don't just force prioritize because you think so, because somebody says so. So just make sure that you have the right data, the right justification, and only then talk to leadership, talk to your stakeholders, and then make sure that these things are also taken into account in priority and not lose visibility. So pitfall number 5, the last pitfall, listening to the loudest stakeholder who say, cause I say so. You might have seen in a lot of your meetings, right? So there are a lot of people who say that, I know how things work. I know how, businesses work, how products are built. And by my experience, I say, this is how it should be. And that's why you should prioritize something. Never look at opinions, always go with data. So never bump the priority artificially of an item because there's a stakeholder which says, because I say so. Make sure that you ask them to get the right data, and only then you kind of make sure that something is getting in the priority list. So now we get to the EIMP, which is the evidence, impact, multipliers, and priority sheet. And this is what it looks like for the case in point app, the geriatric mid app. Because we bumped the priority of one of the mandatory items, we now have it as the top item. The next step for you would be to go ahead, talk to the engineering, get some cost, make sure that you are able to build as much as possible the top few items, because these are the items that will make you achieve the business objectives. If not, try to get for more investments, more engineers. If that is not possible, then maybe de-scope some things, and then always make sure that you're communicating those trade-offs actively to all your stakeholders. Now, in summary, evidence multiplied by impact multiplied by multiplier is the priority. It's very simple. It's still hard work, because you have to make sure that each one of these items, the evidence, impact, and multiplier, brings as much objectivity as possible. So implement this in your own roadmap themes, in your own features. This is just theory. You will not get a better understanding of it until you go back to your company and you try to implement the framework and see how it works. So for evidence, you can look at customer requests. Maybe you can look at Jira items and see how many customer accounts have requested for some of the features. You can read some sales reports, because sales reports are great. Salespeople go to the customers, they have conversations. It's a great source of looking at the features that your customers are asking for. You can look at some NPS feedback and comments. Again, they will be talking about some pain points, some direct features asked. So these are great source of collecting evidence, if not direct customer interviews and interactions. The impact. What metric do you most care about in the current planning cycle? In the next 6 months, what is that one metric that your company, your department wants to focus on? That is the impact. That is the one business metric that you should be focusing on. And multiplier are again your business objectives. So look at the business objectives that your leadership has put for the next 6 months or 1 year and see how you can derive those business objectives in your own product area, in your own feature area, and give them the relative weightage based on the discussions that I just talked about. And then if there are some high impact and zero evidence items, revisit them, see whether they are really, really high impact. If it is really, something that needs to be done but has zero evidence, feel free to bump up the priority, but with the right trade-offs and justifications, and review with your stakeholders and get alignment on these items. So these are some simple steps, some very, very easy to implement, not so easy to get the source data on, the facts, but once you have these data on your hand, it's not a very difficult framework to implement. Go ahead and see how it works for your own backlog items and see whether you're comfortable in using it. As I said, feel free to tweak it. Feel free to modify it according to your own needs, but use it for a couple of months and see whether it is giving you the right results. And then just go ahead and prioritize.